Okay. What's up, everybody? This is your main man, a different echelon. This is the Thursday edition of the Different Echelon podcast. I'm your main man, Darius Nolan, obviously a different echelon, where we're here to encourage, educate, and to empower. Today's show is going to be magnificent. I've been looking forward to it all week long. It's going to be a good friend of mine. I say that every week, I feel like. But it's going to be a good friend of mine. I just can't wait to get into it. But before we get started, we just want to cover a few things. Just found out, I think it was yesterday that, or maybe today, Senate passed the bill. I think it's a $1.9 trillion bill to provide us with another stimulus check, $1,400 per adult in the household. $1,400 for a non-dependent that is still living in the household. So new President Biden is getting some things rolling again, whether you like him or not, or believe or agree with his policies or not. He's doing some things trying to get this government and this economic situation stimulated and get us out there spending money and all that kind of stuff. But that is a part of his job, to keep the country vibrant. Also, too, in the state of Texas, the governor has fully lifted the mask ban, or the mask ban against masks, I guess you could say, where you can walk around freely without a mask on. You can still wear one if you choose to. But there are several states, including my state of South Carolina, that the governor is leaving it up to the cities and to the private businesses to determine whether or not they want their patrons or their residents to wear a mask. So once again, as I always say, please keep yourself protected. If you feel better with the mask on, keep your mask on. I feel better with the mask on personally, although I have been vaccinated, and that has become a bit of a controversial topic as well. But nonetheless, just continue to keep yourselves healthy. Like I said, keep yourself socially distanced. I can't talk today. But keep yourself in the right shape to have a good health and hopefully have good wealth as well. So we're going to get right into it. We're not going to wait. I was just talking to my buddy. He told me that he doesn't have all night to dilly-dally with me. So we're going to get right into it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my very, very good friend to the I'm a Different Echelon audience. Everyone say hello to my good friend, Mr. Zack Quillen. What's up, Zack?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I can't complain.
Good. Where are you? You wearing a toboggan? You're not in South Carolina, I take it.
No. This is not a piece of South Carolina gear here. I'm up in Ohio. I took the year, obviously whenever the pandemic started, and obviously no one was gigging. So I decided to take that time and finish up my master's thesis in music theory, which I had started at Ohio University. I guess 10, 11 years ago, something like that, and only owed him a thesis. I just had to write the paper. So I thought, well, this is, it didn't get written the first time because who had a year to sit around and write a paper? Well, this year I had a year to sit around and write a paper, and that's what I did. And, toboggan is kind of a part of the Ohio garb. It's trying to be spring, but it's not spring. It's still real, pretty chilly up here compared to what we're used to.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's good, man. So thesis, it's funny because the universe has a way of getting you to do what needs to be done.
Exactly.
So you have the time now to get that thesis out of the way. You almost done with it or what?
Well, yeah. So I've turned in the first final draft essentially to the thesis committee. It's saying this is as good as it's getting for right now, essentially. Right. And I defend it at the end of this month here. Essentially, the committee of 3 professors will kind of review the paper and give me comments on it and ask me questions. And, I kind of have to defend my stance, Right. And then I make edits and turn it in. So I've done the lion's share of it so far. I spent a lot of this pandemic just reading and writing and doing pretty much, there's no gigs. So it's the opposite of what my life was before and what it'll be after. Right. But, Yeah, it's been a long year of reading. I learned a lot. I really did. I'm happy to do it, and I feel, a little more refreshed now. Weirdly, you take a break. Like, I don't know if you felt that way, because you're back to gigging. It's like, kind of nice to have a break. It's good to be back, of course, but
right.
Nice to have just something to change it up.
Well, that's very good, and Ohio's not gigging like you just said, and we're in Charleston, and Charleston's basically wide open, like I just mentioned about the the band. As far as wearing your mask goes or whatever, I mean, people still wear the mask here, but I think started this past Monday, bars are open like the old days, 10:30 doing gigs, 10:30 to 1:30, downtown, Mount Pleasant and everywhere, actually, James Island, wherever you can get your foot in the door. But that's interesting, man. And let's go back a little bit, man. I remember I met you. So this is 2021. So I met you in 2019, I believe.
Sounds right.
Yeah, sounds about right. So I've known you for a couple years, and I really do not remember where I met you, but I will tell you this.
I do.
Where? Where was it?
The Tin Roof at a showcase.
That's exactly that's right. And we're not going to mention that particular company, so don't do it. But we're at the Tin Roof, and you were
for the mail review we were part of.
Yeah. There you go. And it's so funny because I was like, God, man, this dude has such a hard voice. I bet he smokes 60 cigars a night to be able to get that voice, man. So you were smashing guitar, you were leading. It was really, really good, man. So I was like, I was trying to get onto the scene, in that venue, in that avenue, so to speak. And I'm a church guy, so I was trying to do some other things. And I came to the Tin Roof and heard you singing, man. Like, I forgot what you sang, but it was just like so impressive. And honestly, hopefully you can teach me. I'm not a blues guy. I'm a gospel jazz guy, hip hop dude, some R&B and soul. But I'm not a blues or country guy. But anyway, you were just so impressive, man. So tell me, how long have you been singing and performing, man?
Thank you. I've been playing and playing guitar since I was about 12.
Okay.
And dabbling with singing then. I didn't really get serious about singing until I was in college. I had joined a men's chorus in college, and I just was like, oh, I really like singing. This is fun, And I decided, at the time I was a math and physics major. And I was good at it, but I wasn't finding a lot of joy in it, I suppose. So I just switched to music. I'd always played music. I was in band. I played, trombone in high school. I was in a steel drum band in high school. I was, piano lessons, that kind of thing. I did all these kind of, never got serious about it, I guess, singing and music until college. Mostly guitar, mostly singing, but played a lot of gigs on bass, a lot of gigs on keyboards.
Okay.
I don't remember. This is the joy of podcasting. Did that answer your question? I don't even remember.
No, you answered the question. I don't remember what song it was either, but it was really impressive. And I came up to like, man, you're great. So I think we exchanged numbers. And
we did.
Before I continue the story, your buddy Jeremy Harmon.
Yeah,
says he sounds better with his favorite sax player. So shout out to Jeremy.
Shout out indeed. Shout out
but
Slurpee in the house.
Yeah, I was telling you, man, what I wanted to do, and you're one of the people that welcome me with open arms. You're like, hey, man, let's do lunch one day.
Yeah,
and I remember I had a gig at the airport, and I was off from my regular job when we met at that place in Hanahan.
Yeah,
and you turned me on to deep fried mushrooms. Yeah. And you were smashing. I was like, this guy's never eaten before. He was smashing mushrooms.
Bro, I eat for sure. That's not it.
But you gave me some good advice, man, and I was so very, very thankful. Tell me how it pays to be a nice person in this industry.
Okay. Well, let me backtrack a little and run through that one.
Sure.
You said you asking me about how long I've been playing, and I wanted to just say, you said I was impressive, and I want to say thanks, but let me also tell you, it's the only thing I know how to do. I'm not good at anything else, and anybody who knows me knows that. I can eat, right? I can play some guitar, but don't ask me to, don't ask me to do your taxes. Don't ask me to, be productive elsewhere. It's just music. That's where I matter at all. But
that's probably not true, but that's cool. You're humble, man.
Well, I hope to be. What's the other option? Being a jerk.
True.
Being nice in the industry. I think it's as important as being hardworking.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just doesn't pay to make enemies. It doesn't pay to have. It pays to make everything be smooth. You try to. Nothing's perfect. So in the industry, you're going to run it. You're going to have arguments with so and so, and you're going to have issues. But I don't know. To me, it's always. I think it's best in business to take the high road, speak clear. That kind of stuff. Be honest. Be genuine, but also just It doesn't make sense to get mad or emotional. I think that was mostly of our conversation then. I think it was just like, even if I think we shared a shared story. We both felt like we had something that kind of hosed us a little bit that week.
Right.
And I think, that was some of it. But, the one thing, what I liked about you, you're sitting here bragging on me. Let me brag on you a little.
It's going to take 1 second, I'm sure.
The humble, again. So this is, I remember talking to you, and I remember, I don't even doubt, will you succeed? Because at that time, you introduced yourself as your actual name.
Yeah, Darius, yeah.
Right. And I said, okay, Darius, cool. And then Darius became the most lavish.
Come on, man.
Well, this is because you came to me, you said you were doing church gigs, you were trying to learn some different stuff, get into the different scene. Yeah. And what I saw was a guy, if you're smart and you're amenable, you're pleasant, and you work hard, there's what stops you. And that's something I see in you. And honestly, that's the only reason I'm where I'm at, is because I wouldn't even say I'm smart. I say I worked hard, and I try not to, make enemies, eventually, so that's the importance, it just doesn't, it's better to, because everybody knows everybody too. That's the music. Everybody knows everyone. So what good does it do you to have an enemy? Take the Christian route. Just forgive people. Forgive yourself.
And speaking to knowing everybody, I've always said this, although I was in a different avenue in Charleston specifically, you're only one person off from someone you don't know. I say that all the time. So you have to be careful who you talk trash about, because you could be talking trash about somebody's brother, somebody's cousin, somebody's homeboy, homegirl. It doesn't matter, man. So you always have to be very careful. But what touched my heart, I remember we had a gig at this particular barbecue place down here, which is not even a thing anymore. And it's a small, and it was almost like a lot of musicians and whatnot came out to support us and support me. And I was so overwhelmed.
That was a cool night.
Yeah, that was a cool night, because it was like a family.
I remember that, Hank, because I came with Arnold.
You came through, man, and you I think you helped throw some dude out. That was
that was pretty standard for that club.
Exactly, man. No, that was good, man. That was really good. So tell me this, man. Working in Charleston, and your name is obviously Zach, but you use the moniker Suffering Moses. You talk about me, the most lavish, and I appreciate that.
Totally.
Tell us about Suffering Moses, though. Let's talk about that.
Well,
because I never got a chance to ask you about that.
Okay, you were the most lavish, and now you're in a different echelon.
Right.
This is that's listen. Ask Jeremy about any of the jazz workshop or the old school Suffering Moses days. The guy that was talking is a buddy of mine. He was one of the first people in Suffering Moses in the original lineup.
Right.
And which is, the band is 11, 12 years old now at this point. Maybe older. I don't know. But anyway, the band name, essentially I was renting a room from some friends in grad school the first time, right? 11 years ago, whenever. And they'd had a death in the family. And she basically ended up with a box of heirlooms, from someone's aunt or something like that. And she was just looking at the stuff one day, right? She, hey, I got this, looking at it, and we found this, basically a vase, a sort of like a paper mache, but like super fancy. It almost looked like an urn. but it wasn't an urn. It was like a
Right.
big thing, and it was like, you know, a serious container of some type. And you know, we thought it was cool, and it sat in the house. We never even paid attention. We're like, oh, neat. Put it on the shelf. And one day I'm sitting there looking at it, and I look at the bottom, and it says, "Handmade in India by Suffering Moses."
Mm.
And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Like, that's a cool, like, who's this? You know,
right.
What is that? And we Googled it. Thanks, Google, you know, and we discovered this is a, you know, a craftsman essentially in India, a famous, rather famous one, that makes these paper mache pots all by hand. Each one's unique. They're crazy expensive. Like, I shouldn't have been handling it. That's how expensive, you know, like, and, you know, his famous thing when they asked him, why do you call yourself Suffering Moses? And to which he replied, no true art comes without suffering.
Mm.
And his name was, of course, Moses. But to me, that resonated with me. You know, I was starting the band at the time, and also, you know, in a place not too dissimilar to where you described, you know, like starting off, you know, looking at a bunch of hard work ahead of me, essentially.
Yeah,
you
right.
know?
Right.
And that was, and I would say you're further along than I was then. But either way, yeah, you clearly. Right. That's you should have heard the first time we played. It was rough.
I got you.
Yeah, but that I don't know. It resonated with me. No true art comes without suffering, and it's true, isn't it? And it's one of the things we talk about. Being a band leader, it's a lot of work,
right?
And you do it for any serious time, you know. There's a sacrifice there if you really want to make something good artistically. And I think a lot of folks, you know, who are serious about their art on some level, can identify with that. Right. So,
and I can understand you. Now, first of all, that was a great story. So thanks for sharing with us on that.
Thank you. Good question. Thanks.
You know, to be honest with you, man, I understand about names, and I picked the Lavish Sound initially. First, we'll call it Lavish Sounds. And a friend of mine, Sean Dolby, became my producer. He wanted to change it to the Lavish Sound. I said, no, that's stupid. But then I eventually changed it to that. But the point is that I always wanted to execute our moniker. And so when you say what you're saying about your name, like, you just can't pick a name that's out of random. You have to have a name that's going to be something that can epitomize your movement and where you're going. And right. So when you play, and I'm just going to try to draw a parallel here, like blues music, there is like some suffering in that kind of music. Before we got on, we talked about country music. You know, old school country, like my dog died, my wife left me, I'm on my last beer, I'm suffering. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and you really nail it. You know what I'm saying? And what I like about you is that it doesn't matter where you perform. When you perform, you kind of shine through, like you pierce the atmosphere. Tell me about what your mindset is when you perform, and say you're in front of an unfamiliar crowd. So we do weddings, and you're definitely, there's a lot of pressure because, number one, you're the band leader for a band that's not really your band, but some people that we know from doing what we do. Second of all, you're tasked with making sure that the entertainment part of someone or two people's greatest days of their life go great, and they're complete strangers.
Right.
So tell me about the pressure that you feel, if any at all, when you're on stage.
Well, this is a question, you know, I wouldn't say I've done a bunch of interviews, but I will say it's a really common question. And I basically, do you get stage fright? Does it weird you out? Does it still mess with you? Yeah, whatever. Right. And I think I'm kind of weird in that regard because it never messed with me. Like I've been doing it since I was 12, and I just don't get nervous. I get very excited. Like I want to do it. I look forward to it. I think the better word is not like, you know, anxious, not stage fright, not scared, not like, oh, what if I mess up? Because you said there's a lot of pressure, and it's like, yeah, I look at those as, there's a lot of pressure, but really, there's also a lot of opportunity. Because you've also, you know, there's potential for a scenario of a corporate band structure of any type, or pickup band in a bar or whatever. There's potential for it to go to, oh my goodness, this is falling apart. More often than not, I see the potential for it being some really interesting musical stuff because I get to play with guys I don't maybe normally play with. And I get to be a part of these people's celebration. And the other thing is I've been facilitating parties since I was 12. I've been gigging at parties or working in food and bev, right? I did music for 25 years and food and bev for 20. Right. So to me, like, I don't know, I've just seen a lot of parties go bad and a lot of parties go good and most of them go good. So I go well, excuse me. Sorry, Mom, for my grammar mistake.
Right.
You know, she's at home going, oh, go well, it goes well. You know, to me, I don't know. I know when it's going bad and I've just seen it enough. It doesn't weird me out. It's excitement. It's pressure sometimes, but I don't know. I just get, you know, now I feel like I'm rambling. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, you're good. No. I'm interviewing you, so you tell me what you want to say.
You know, that's one of those questions that's hard to say. Like, if I'm honest, no, it doesn't bother me. But do I feel something every time? Yeah. If you ever see me play, you can say that me playing, I don't look like I'm just another day at the office. Like I'm just real bored and ho-hum. Like, no, it's the best part of my day. I'm jacked up. I am having so much. Oh yeah. Having so much fun. You said I sort of pierce an environment. You know, some of my friends would say, yeah, maybe his mic's too loud. That's a funny joke for Jeremy. My mentality for that with a new crowd is you know, really it comes down to, okay, I'm not worried. What I am thinking about is what's the strategy? And my strategy is always to make the best burger. Right. I don't try to reinvent the wheel. I try to do what I do the best. I think, you know, if I make a good burger with this kind of topping, you know, I'm just going to keep trying. So I pick songs I think people will like. If I have a new crowd, I try to look around and go, what makes me look the best? You know, how can I sell these? You know, as silly as that sounds, like, how can I ease into their party? If I've never seen them and I'm just first gig at a place, how can I ease into this party? Right. You know, I'm selling them one song at a time. That's my mentality. It's looking at, and it's different every time. You look at the room, you know, and it does change, you know. Right. I don't know. That's what
you're good. You're good. No.
That's all I have to say about that. To quote Forrest Gump.
No, man, you're good to go, man. I actually, man, I really, I admire people like you. I would like to say that, you know, me personally, I'm a musician, I'm a singer, I write some, produce some, but I'm getting to be an entertainer now. It appears to me that you've always been an entertainer. So it's almost like that stage is like your workshop. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So let's have a little fun. Okay. Give me a moment where you had, what was the most embarrassing or the most, I guess I would say the most embarrassing or roughest time you ever had performing?
Well, this ties into something you said earlier too, where you said, you know, don't talk trash basically because everybody knows, you don't know if that's somebody's brother. Yeah, right. I think there's a better argument for why you shouldn't talk trash. And
I thought it was wrong?
aside from they might hear, aside from it's wrong. Both are true. I think the bigger one is, tell me that there's not a 30-second clip of you or me or every musician we know just being horrible, like a bad night, somebody's cell phone somewhere. I guess what I'm saying is you're only as good as your worst night on film. And, you know, it's one of these, you know, the time I decided I'm never talking trash is there was, and this is one of the videos, right? Somebody had found a video of me and I was playing, I want to say Henry's or something. And it was the end of the night, tired. This is back when I still drank, right? And I don't drink now. So, you know, I was a little end of the night, blues guitarist, a little sauce, I was having fun. But I just, you know, it's a little tired, didn't really sing well, missed a couple of notes on the guitar bounce of the band's not quite right. It's one with, you know, somebody on bass or drums that, you know, is not always with me. Maybe I'm dealing with a sub that night. It was like the perfect storm of just the worst I sound, right? Right.
I got you.
And somebody filmed it and was really into it. Like they loved it. And they shared it a bunch. Right. And to me, I was like mortified because I was like, oh my, well, I was happy they liked it, right? Yeah, they were into it. And I'm looking at that and going, that is the worst.
This is not my standard.
This week even. Like, it's not even just the worst this week. Like, that's the worst in 6 months. And that's one of those things, well, you know, you can't, you know, you make the best burgers. Occasionally, you're going to mess up a burger. You're going to have to buy somebody a new burger, you know? And I felt like that audience, the fact that that was on tape. Now it's, it's not, it never got viral or anything, but it was enough to make me go, yeah, this is why we don't talk trash. This is why we don't drink. This is why we try to bring the general level of our performance up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You know what? It's interesting that you say
I hope that's not ego. I look at it as
no.
business and not ego. It's how do I just eliminate those suck days? It's just the days that you suck. I want less of them.
You're talking about a standard. And that's one of the things that I'm working on, increasing my standard. But with that being said, can you kind of lean over into how important professionalism is? Like, again, you're a band leader. There are things that I am kind of a little lenient on, but there are things that I really have no tolerance for. And I'll say this, and those that know me know that it's true. I don't have tolerance for habitual tardiness. I feel like if you're always tardy, then your priorities are not lying with what we're doing.
Right.
And so give me a pet peeve of yours as far as professionalism goes, or give me your definition of professionalism, and let's kind of work our way out from there.
I think professionalism for me is one of the biggest upgrades I made to myself as a business, as a musician. I didn't start making money until I started valuing that more than the sound, almost. And not more than the sound. Obviously, no one values that side of it. Your sound is primary, of course. But, a couple years back, maybe it was after I had gotten sober. So 7 years ago, I decided I was going to be product focused, right? I wanted to make the best burger. And then I felt like I was doing behaviors that were going to promote me constantly just improving some aspect of my game. So I had that corner. The next year, I decided I wanted to be the fastest and the most accurate with my communication. I felt like the biggest issue where I was losing money, where I was losing respect, where I was missing opportunities, which is the big one, was because maybe, I could have texted them back that day or that hour, but I forgot, or I let it go till tomorrow or whatever. And I really think the biggest key, if you want to talk about professionalism or some kind of thing you can do in the music world that will advance you the fastest, aside from coming on time, which I think is that's the ticket to the dance. If you can't come on time, that's a different ballgame. But to me, I think it's be quick with communication. Because it helps me to book gigs, it helps you to book gigs. So you're going to get more as a sub. I'm going to be able to book more stuff if I got a quick, network of folks I can, put in someplace. But yeah, it boils down to, do you value it? Do you not? And I think people that value a group experience where we're all making literally, some of these people it's the vacation of their lifetime. And speaking of Charleston, they never get to go on vacation. They go on a beach vacation. They get to see your band. That's part of their memories forever. Remember that vacation? So to me, I know maybe that's silly, but I look at that like that's an important role. It's similar to a wedding gig or something like that. Like that's an important thing. I think it's, we get paid. I think you should show up on time. I think you should come do your best. I think let's act like a little, you don't get to not email back at your job. You got to check that email. Why is this not, So to me, I don't know. All I can speak for is changes I've seen with it. And I know when I adapted that, when I started being serious about my time, when I started being serious about my product, when I started being serious about my communication, I'll tell you that my money more than tripled. I'll tell you that my professional connections more than tripled. And not like I'm so connected, I'm so rich. It's just I'm not dirt poor and have no gigs. Do you know what I mean?
No.
I worked from nothing to something just on those principles. And so to me, I
think that someone told me some good advice, gave me some good advice some years back, and they were talking about another arena, but I'm just going to bring it into this relationships. Relationships, good relationships will get you where you want to be. And what happens is that if you're a jerk, if you're not punctual, if you don't know your material, if you're scrambling around, the least you can do is have a good presentation. And I remember when I first started playing for, I grew up Pentecostal, so I knew a lot of those types of gospel songs. And I started playing with an AME church, which they have a lot of hymns and, chants and doxologies and stuff like that. And I was struggling hard. And this old lady came up to me, one of the mothers of the church. She says, Nolan, she says, I know that you're having a hard time right now. She says, but two things I appreciate about you. You're always on time and you always wear a suit to Sunday service.
Right.
And when she said that to me, it's almost like a light bulb went off. And she happened to be one of the decision makers in the church. So I know in times where they wanted to like let me go, I'm sure she stood up for me.
Right.
And said, hey, you know, we're going to keep this guy because I know he's having a hard time right now, but he's working. And it took me a minute to get it, but now I got it. And I've been very successful in my career in that avenue. And, you know, with that being said, I know that we, as artists, as musicians, a lot of times we kind of take things for granted. But something that you just said that was very, very powerful is that may be someone's only experience, not just hearing our band play, but in South Carolina and Charleston. And you don't want them to equate a bad trip with seeing your band play or say, you know what, the vacation was great, the hotel was great, the concierge was great, you know, the restaurants were great, but that band was terrible.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be that, you know, that asterisk. So
right.
For me, I think that's very, very important. But speaking of music, let's play a little game, Zach.
Sure.
I've been wanting to play this game for a minute now. Word association game. I'm going to call an artist, and you give me one word that you feel kind of like personifies that artist. All right? Ready?
Okay.
Here we go.
Sure.
First artist is Earth, Wind, and Fire.
One word that personifies Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Right. Or describes them. I'll put it like that.
Well, my first thought is groove.
Groove. All right.
If I'm thinking of the tunes in general, yeah.
All right, that's cool. That's cool. Let's take someone else. Let's take Elvis Presley.
Swag.
All right.
Just because of his delivery, you know.
Oh yeah. Let's take another. Yeah. Do that again.
Crazy suits and big hand. You know, watch Elvis do Suspicious Minds. And tell me that doesn't get you jacked up, because he's jacked up. Now he was probably on drugs, but it was entertaining, you know.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's chemical or whether it's organic, he's still jacked up.
He was a performer, heck of a performer.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
You know,
let's take someone like Jay-Z.
My first thought is just smart business guy.
Business. All right, that's cool.
Because he's got talent, but he's not rich because of talent. A lot of people have talent, you know. Like, this is our conversation the other day, and I know this is, I don't want to interrupt the game, but
let's talk. Let's go.
This is really, you can learn music. You can get music lessons, right? Music is not the part anyone has to learn. And then we always do, right? If you're in it, you're always learning. So music isn't the hard part.
Right.
And I think one of the things, like, you could have put Jay-Z in any field.
Right.
He's going to be rich.
Right.
Because he's thinking about that business mentality. He's got stuff you can't teach. You have stuff you can't teach people.
Right.
I mean, people can learn it, really, but it's something that is somehow, for some folks, it's just an obstacle that seems to plague them. I was one of them. I was late my whole life until I started losing money for it. And then I stopped being late. You know, I got sent home from work about twice, and I was like, I want money, and I guess to get it on time. So problem solved, you know? Yeah. Anyway, JC, business.
Right. Let's go a little bit out of your wheelhouse. Let's do Kirk Franklin.
Oh man, he's all in my wheelhouse right now. I love gospel music. Don't know enough because there's so much that I'm just, late to the party, really. You know, that's one that you said you're jealous of, or not jealous, you admire, I think is what you said. People that are like party producers, essentially. You know, the entertainer thing. Right. And I was about to say the same back to you. And like, I just texted you the other day, like, I want to look into like doing some putting together a gospel group. Like, I want to.
We're gonna do it. So but give me the word first, and then I want you to kind of like break it down.
Ringleader. Kirk Franklin is the circuit, the ringmaster. You know what I mean? Right. And like when that Tiny Desk show that they just put out.
Right.
And you could see it, people, I still don't understand this. I texted this to you too. People, but Kirk Franklin doesn't sing. First of all, he does, but that's not what he does. Like if you're mad at, if you're listening to Kirk Franklin going, I want to hear Kirk Franklin sing, that's the problem.
Right.
He writes great songs and he surrounds himself with an incredible wealth of musicians, and they execute it. I mean that.
Right.
Anyway.
No, I actually
ringmaster.
I'm gonna tell you something, man. I mean, gospel's my thing, and I'll say this. I remember when Kirk Franklin came out with a song called "The Reason Why We Sing," and that was such an odd, not odd. Let me go. It was a fresh song. Like the style of it, the delivery, its execution was great. Even when you saw them, the way they stood around the mic, and this was. And for those of my gospel lovers out there, you guys know what I'm talking about. There was a shift in the 80s where you went away from the big choirs that were like, at least 20 people deep. Some are in the hundreds. So you just had like maybe 9 people around 3 microphones. And Kirk Franklin was at the forefront of that. I mean, some would argue that it went back a little bit with the Hawkins family, but just to kind of keep on track here, Kirk Franklin is a gospel legend. He's a music legend. And, if he's not in some kind of Hall of Fame, he will be. Because to me, he's as transcendent as a person like Prince was to music in and of itself, as transcendent as Magic Johnson was to basketball, as transcendent as Ralph Lauren is to fashion.
Well, and let's talk about his predecessors. I mean, look at I believe Reverend James Cleveland.
Yeah, James Cleveland.
That's a whole. I mean, to me, that's the voice of that sort of sound.
Right.
That's kind of the epitome of that style. That's kind of what he's doing, along with you're talking about. I'm thinking of Fred Hammond.
Hammond,
but especially when I got turned on, it was after commission.
Right. Me too.
Yeah. That No Weapon changed me. Jesus Be Offense. Changed me. And I did not ever hear that sound. You got to remember, I'm coming from the middle of nowhere in Ohio. There's not a whole lot of Fred Hammond, Right.
But Fred Hammond is from Detroit. That's up the street.
Yeah, but I'm from the it's not that it's north that's the problem. I'm from the middle of nowhere that's the problem.
Right. No.
Like,
I understand
that's Detroit's there's a serious scene there. But I just didn't hear enough. I grew up on Garth Brooks.
Right.
I grew up on I grew up on a lot of B.B. King actually. That's kind of how I got into it.
Right.
But anyway, I'm messing up your game. What's the next one? What's the next one?
No. I wanted to sit on Kirk Franklin for a minute. Because we were talking, and before we got on tonight, you were playing a song for me. You don't have to play it right now, but we were just talking about, and I want to get into this for a lot of my listeners that are musicians. One particular guy I need to shout out is David George Sink.
Oh,
I'm sure you remember.
How can I forget?
Yeah, David is a guy that I love because he is so exuberant about music.
Yeah.
But we talked about this before the show, whereas then you're trying to play a music you're not familiar with. So what happens is your fingers and your mind go back to muscle memory.
Right.
So your progressions are all what you are used to doing. Mm-hmm. So in gospel, progressions are 2, 3, 4, 6, or 2, 5, 1, which is a jazz progression. Mm-hmm. And when I play pop music, it's such an odd progression to me when you go from 2 to 6 to 3 to 4. You know what I mean? They never go back to the root. And for a person like you trying to learn this, what type of frame of mind you put yourself in when you're trying to learn a music you're not familiar with?
Well, to me, I mean, my master's degree is in music theory.
Right.
So my approach to anything that I'm not familiar with is to go at it from the structures. How are the chords built? What's the progression? And whether or not the logic makes sense or the trends are in my ears and I can predict it, that's a whole other story. But like I was saying, I love the sound of gospel music. It's not ingrained in my mind, but when I play it, I can go, okay, I can figure out what's happening. So my thing is trying to kind of build a repertoire or a library and develop some trends. Like, I tell people, if you learn a 3 or 4 chord song, great, about 50 songs. You just don't know. You really know like 300 songs immediately.
Right.
But you don't know that you know that. And I want to get to with gospel. I think my goal is to get to the point where I know enough gospel tunes where I kind of know what sorts of progressions and what sort of little chunks, what sort of turnaround little bits. Like when they go to the 6 in this Kirk Franklin tune, there is always that the 3, 7, right? Like, so if they're in, so they're always going to go to that F7 before they get to B flat minor. Right. If you're in D flat or whatever, and that's not everything, but like that's going to happen a lot there or in some fashion,
Right.
you know, which is again your 2-5-1, you know.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's just about building. You have to build the trends you don't have. So keep looking at the structures, learn enough to go, oh, because you know someday, like I told you, the Kirk Franklin video, it's like two or the three of the songs are almost the same progression, but totally different feels. So you don't even realize it.
Yeah, you
don't even. Yeah, you don't even. You know, which is half a country. You know,
right. And that's the beauty. And that's the beauty of music. One of the first songs that I tried to play when I got onto the you know the club bar scene was "Rock with You" by Michael Jackson.
Good tune.
And I think what threw me right off the top was that the song started on the 2. And I was like, what? Because in gospel, we always start on the 1. You know what I mean? That's old gospel. Like modern gospel, you probably start on either probably the 6, because the worship music start on the 6. And, you know, you never go to the root. But anyway, that being said, you kind of have to retrain your mind to be able to receive that stuff. And now it's not really, you know, that difficult for me anymore. And I just think it's very interesting. My boy Aaron Robinson just tuned in, a great drummer here in Charleston. Let me shout out 2 more people: Myron Sims from New Jersey and Corey Glover, my good buddy, man, from here in the Charleston area. Thank y'all for tuning in, along with Jeremy. Nice. But you know, it's very interesting that we talk about this, because for you and I to take 2 worlds and put them together and collide them is going to be great. You can teach me a lot of things. I probably have one thing to teach you, as you teach me 2 million things. But no, but seriously, man, it's a beautiful thing. But let's talk about moving forward, because we got a couple more minutes. I don't want to hold you all night, man. This has been a great conversation. JR, what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. What's in the future for Suffering? Oh, wait, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say something. I didn't want to interrupt your shout out there, but one of the guys you shouted out was David George Sink. Yeah. Before he moved to this town, he was, you know, I think visiting and maybe looking at some gigs and, you know, checking the scene out and making friends and connecting, you know, influencing people, you know. And he was, I think I ended up friends with him on Facebook before he lived here. And he was really into music theory. So I go, oh, great, another, you know, theory nerd, somebody else that's into this like I'm into it, you know.
Right.
And so we started talking, and I, you know, as I've gotten to know him here and there, over even since he had since moved to Charleston and all that, and we got to be friends. And he's got the same thing that you got, and the same thing that I got, and the same thing that really anybody could have if they chose, which is that kid has got a work ethic. Right. And since I met him, it's whether he understands it or doesn't understand it, he's going to go at it and he's going to learn it. Which is honestly, that's how I work. Like whether I get it or not. Like I was telling you about confusing myself with Kirk Franklin chord progressions. Like. I'm going to bang my head against that wall until I figure it out.
Yeah, no.
And that's something he does. That's something you do. And I think that's what success, I bet that's what Jay-Z does. You think Jay-Z gets up and doesn't work all day? I bet he works all day, you know?
Man, listen, I'm going to be honest with you.
Sorry, I didn't mean that.
I'm going to say this about David real quick. David will stay up all night and learn a song. And I remember.
He'll learn 10 if you tell him there's a gig tomorrow.
Yeah, you got that right. He learned a song with my previous band. It was a Robert Glasper tune called "Let It Ride." He did that with Nora Jones, and it's such an odd song. It's got a funny beat to it and everything. But this dude learned the song exactly the way it was, or the way it is, and I was so impressed by that, because see, so many musicians, they just learn the surface, they don't get into it, and the more and the better you learn the song, the better you're able to play it. And even you may run into some chords you never heard before, and you can add it to your repertoire with other songs. That's why it's very important to learn all types of songs. And I was stuck because I was only learning the songs I just had to play for that Sunday, or if I had to do an anniversary or a conference or whatever. Now I try to learn anything. When I first started playing, my zeal was different. I wanted to play everything I heard, like on TV, commercial, whatever it may be. Then I got into being a man, and I had responsibilities. So that being said, that's why it's very important to make yourself well-rounded. So last question I have for you, Zach, how do you keep yourself sharp?
I think for music, for me, maybe not for everyone, but I think I would speculate that it works for everyone. is kind of the same principle of muscle confusion in athletic training. Like you don't want to do the same workout every day as like you don't want to squat every day, right? You want to squat one day and then someday you're doing something else, and then you might work out the legs again, but it's not a squat day or whatever. I think the key is, and it's one of my passions, so I guess it works out as a strategy for me, is, I practice guitar, and then sometimes I feel like I hit a wall, and then I say, okay, I'm breaking up the guitar for a little bit. I'm going to go date my piano for 3 months. And then I learn a different thing about music that I wasn't somehow accessing through the medium of guitar. And then I'll go look at the bass, and then I'll sing. And so because I'm a multi-instrumentalist, that's kind of my muscle confusion. I just keep looking. So I theoretically, and for music theory and overarching stuff, I kind of am always keeping something to chew on, something to think about. I play the drums, and that's been maybe the biggest learning experience for me. Not only just how loose my time was, how tight I thought it was versus how it actually was, but also just thinking about grooves in a song. What's as a guitar player, if I start the tune with the wrong feel, the whole tune is screwed.
Off,
If I think like a drummer, and this is where it really comes in handy as a band leader, is I want to be able to kick off a tune and have it be the right feel, so the drummer doesn't look at me with a weird face. I want him to go, "Yep, that's the feel," So to stay sharp, that for me, I think towards the end of before coronavirus, I was burnt out, man. I had played 3 to 7 gigs a week for the better part of 6 years straight. And there's a lot of guys that do that, but they're not all singers, right? And a lot of the singers out there will say, yeah, that's kind of you're pretty hosed. And your voice is usually pretty hosed too, I wouldn't say I felt it too bad in my voice. I try to take pretty good care of it, but mentally, spiritually, I needed the change. And going to this, since I learned a lot, but I haven't been playing as much, right? So I'm sharper mentally, maybe looser in the hands. I mean, I won't be by the time gig time rolls around. They take about 3 gigs to remember how to play guitar, but to me, it's just changing it up and trying something new constantly. This business of resting on your laurels, everything's okay. There's got to be a constant sense of I must grow, and I'm okay where I am. You can't hate that you're not where you want to be, but you can't
sit there.
You can't stay there. It's not what we do. It's not what we do as humans. It's not what we do in music. And I would like to share, because I know you said what's next for Suffering Moses was one of the questions. And I'll say an adaptation, my new business thing. Every year or every so often, I adapt the business, right? And the business initially was, make the best burger, right? And then it was be the fastest at communication, be the fastest and the most accurate at communication, right? These little adaptations, be the most on time. Every year it had something, right? This year I think it's going to be the most positive. And it's not. It's about problem solving. It's also just a general spiritual thing and a general thankful thing. And one of the things that I like most about that Kirk Franklin video, and he's kind of making a joke with his band, but it's true. It don't take but one good tooth to smile. And I think that for 2020, for me, that resonated. I had the audacity to be burnt out, blessed with so many gigs. And then I got burnt out, and it took all away from me. And I've been hanging out by myself, writing a paper for a year. And it's just, I'm going to be thankful now. Because I think also, tell me if I'm wrong, I think it'll yield more both monetary blessings, but also spiritual, interpersonal. It's something I didn't do before. The question is, how can Suffering Moses be an optimist? And the answer is, I'm not sure. I'll tell you when I figure it out, but I'm just doing it.
Listen, it definitely can be. I have to say, I'm gonna say this on air. Your energy is different from when I first met you. You were not a mean person. Of course, you took your time and you talked to me, and you that was great. But you seem to be in a better place now. And I feel like just by you explaining yourself just now, I can see why and how. But listen, man, this has been a great and outstanding conversation. And I told you before, I wanted to have you on. I didn't want a script. I never do a script. We just have a conversation. You came in and you nailed it, man. And I think that you made a lot of people understand more about you and what you do. I love the conversation about spirituality and balance. And you talked about work ethic and things like that. You hit on all the things that I would have said if I were in your seat and you were in my seat. And I just really appreciate you. And you're going to be back in Charleston soon, is that right?
Yeah, I'm here finishing up school in Ohio until May, and I'll be back rip roaring first week of May. I'm working back in the scene,
Right.
and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hey, man, I'll do this anytime. The real task is not can we figure out what to talk about for an hour.
Right.
The real task is how do we keep it under 3 hours.
Right.
Because you and I have a way of filling some time.
We're talkers, man, and I appreciate your willingness to do this.
Of course,
definitely, man. When you get down here, I'm not going to buy you beer because you don't drink anymore, but you got a beverage on me. You got a burger on me. Yeah, I know you eat, but we're gonna stop by that spot if it's still.
Yeah, you can get some. You can buy me fried mushrooms. That's
cool. Listen, man. Thanks a lot, man. I'm going to be talking with you. Don't hang up.
Okay.
I'll kick you out. But thanks a lot, man. Again. Thanks for taking the time, Zach. You're a great guy. You have a great energy, man. I just wish you all the best, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
One more thing before we leave. How can people get in contact with you? What's your email and all that?
Oh, sure. The best way probably through social media. Instagram as just @SufferingMoses. Facebook, same thing. Or you can go to sufferingmoses.com. You can get merch and stuff like that. You can look us up on Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff. We put out an album before the world shut down. It's all out there. Just, if you want to get at me personally, Zack @sufferingmoses.com. ZACH @sufferingmoses.com.
And the name is right at the bottom of your screen, guys. So thanks again to Zack, man, Mr. Suffering Moses.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Wish you all the best with the finishing up your thesis, and look forward to having you in Charleston, man. We're going to get together and make that thing happen, brother.
Heck yeah. Looking forward to it.
All right, man. Just stand by. All right, guys. Once again, that was a great conversation with my good friend, Zack Quillen of Suffering Moses. He shed a lot of light on positivity, about work ethic, little nuggets and things that he likes to do to add a chamber on to his armor, to become a better person and a better musician. So we just thank him for his time and his wisdom, and look forward to him doing great things in the future. Looking forward to our next podcast. We're going to have the great Gino Jones on, a radio personality. Has been doing it for over 30 years. He's going to be talking to us about music then and music now. So we don't want to miss that. That's going to be on next Tuesday at 6 p.m. on the same bad channel, same bad time, obviously. So once again, thank you guys for your support. Thank you for your comments. You may reach me at DarrisNolan28@gmail.com. Once again, DarrisNolan28@gmail.com. You can always look me up on Facebook and on Instagram. Facebook, obviously, is Darris Nolan on Facebook. I'm a Different Echelon on Facebook as well. And this YouTube channel, you can always comment to me there as well. So thanks again for your support. Once again, you guys have a blessed night. We're here to educate, encourage, and to enrich. Not in any particular order. We're going to do all three of those things. Please stay safe. Please keep your distance. And just be well and be safe. God bless you all. Have a great evening. Goodbye.